In his first 8 weeks in office, President Trump has made at least 10 trips to the golf course. He regularly used to criticize President Obama for spending time on the course. How is his golf game any different?
Well, I think two things. One is you saw him utilize this as an opportunity with Prime Minister Abe to help foster deeper relationships in Southeast Asia, and have a growing relationship that's going to help U.S. interests. How you use the game of golf is something that he's talked about. Secondly, we went to he had a mini cabinet meeting the other day or 2 weekends ago down at his club in Virginia. And I remember so many people jumping to the conclusion that he was going down and playing golf. Just because you go somewhere doesn't necessarily mean that you did it. So on a couple occasions, he's actually conducted meetings there. He's actually had phone calls. So just because he heads there doesn't mean that that's what's happening. So
I know he did meet with Prime Minister Abe on the course, but we're not getting a lot of details on other high-level meetings that are taking place. If he is having these productive meetings on the course, why isn't the president and his aides being a little more forthcoming about what he's doing?
It's the same reason that he can have dinner or lunch with somebody, and not because I think the president's entitled to a bit of privacy at some point, where we bring that, which is what we've always agreed to. We bring the the protective pool to be there, but the president's also entitled to a bit of privacy as well. Trey.
Given the talk last week about the budget, the priorities for the American tax dollars, the need to cut programs like, or make cuts to programs like Wheels in the Art, is the president going to consider curbing some of his trips to Mar-a-Lago, which the GAO estimates could cost $3 million for a trip for the president to Palm Beach? Is he planning to cut those back at all, given his feelings about the priorities for the Americans' tax dollars?
I think that is a vast reach to suggest. I mean, the presidents always travel, and I think the president, wherever he goes, he carries the apparatus of the White House with us. That is just something that happens. The president will continue to go and travel around the country and have meetings to solve the nation's problems. And again, I think because I know you took a little bit of a shot there. I think even the Washington Post, which is no friend to conservatives, even they sided with us that these false sort of narratives on Meals on Wheels. It's not a federal program. 3% of their total budget comes from a block grant that's passed through there. It's a state-run program. They had apparently a phenomenal weekend this week. I get that that's a cute program to point at, but it is false and misleading to us to try to make that narrative stick.
So I know, to your point, that all presidents travel. No president has traveled so often and so early to their own private residence. So
President Bush went to Crawford. I mean, there are places.
Often.
I get it. But at the same time, the president's very clearly that he's worked 7 days a week. This is where he goes to see his family. He brings people down there. This is part of being president. John.
How is the president contributing to his own goal of reducing spending, the deficit and the debt, in his management of spending here at the White House?
Well, there's a lot. I mean, we've used the White House, when it looks at a total percentage of the budget, is minuscule. I think that to ask that question somewhat ironic after seeing Director Mulvaney sit up here the other day and talk about the savings and the cost-cutting measures that we've seen across the entire budget. He sat up here and got grilled on that and answered effectively how the president is looking at efficiencies and duplicity in all programs throughout government. So it's not just a question of here at the White House, but he's looking at it holistically throughout all of government. But then you look at some of the activities the president's personally engaged at in terms of the F-35, the next generation of the of Air Force One, personally getting in looking at ways in which we can create a more effective and efficient procurement process. That's one area where I think you're going to see the president personally engage on more and more, is looking at all the stuff that the government buys and how we're doing it, our bidding process in so many ways, especially in the Department of Defense.
We know 3 people here are not taking salaries.
Right.
But what about salaries? I'm talking about, since he's making these massive cuts,
right,
is the hurt going to come here as well?
Sure. I mean, it's not just a hurt, but you bring it up. There are multiple people here who are not taking salaries. I mean, that is, No, way more than 3, April.
How many?
I'll get back to you, but there's several of individuals that are not taking a salary here. So when you talk about commitment to helping to come serve this government, serve the president, and actually help institute a vision, there's a lot of people who have sacrificed tremendously in terms of saying, I'll give up. I've done very well for myself. This country's benefited me. This is an opportunity for me to give back. That there are people well through this organization who have done that. John.